No matter what kind of shooter you are, or what type of firearm and ammunition you use, hand loading that ammo has some real advantages. Nearly 2/3 the cost of new ammunition is in the brass case. So reloading cases puts dollars in my pocket right up front. I can also custom tailor ammunition to each of my firearms and the type of shooting I do. Now that is a real performance benefit. Plus, I'm a better shooter because I can afford to practice more. I will tell you, for savings, proficiency, and personal satisfaction, there's only one way to go: hand load. If you are already a hand loader, during the next few minutes we will help you sharpen your skills. If you're just getting interested, we'll show you how to do it properly and safely. The techniques are time-proven and reliable, especially with the right RCBS equipment and a Speer loading manual, which gives you safety procedures as well as the load data for most pistol or rifle cartridges. To reload, you're definitely going to want a strong, rigid bench. In fact, you can't do the job without it. Now, on our bench, I've installed an accessory base plate for added strength and convenience. The RCBS accessory base plates are drilled and tapped in their holes to make setup and takedown of equipment easy. Now, certainly the most useful base plate application is for mounting a reloading press, which will exert tremendous pressure on the edge of the bench. That's because reloading consists of forcibly resizing the case and forcefully seating a bullet into it. Besides your reloading press, a number of accessories are either desirable or essential to the reloading process, and the best way to buy them is in kits, which offer considerable savings over individual purchases. RCBS has a complete line of presses to fit every hand loader's needs, all with lifetime guaranteed quality construction. This Rock Chucker Supreme I'm using is the best known and most popular press available. Its cast iron construction and block O design, coupled with the mechanical advantage of compound leverage, makes full-length resizing easy, no matter how many cases I have. To begin reloading by inspecting each case, rifle or pistol, you're looking for basically the same things. Check the primer for flattening or cratering or perforation. These can be signs of excessive pressure. Examine the sides. Splits in the neck and shoulder or wall of the case are cause for rejecting them. So are severe dents, corrosion, or any other problems that might weaken the brass or make it unsafe under pressure, especially a crack or bright ring, which indicates head separation. Crush the bad brass so it can't get mixed back in with the good stuff. Cases that pass inspection then have to be cleaned, either with elbow grease or with a power case cleaner. The RCBS vibratory case cleaner uses a dry corncob or walnut shell media containing polish. The Sidewinder is a rotary drum unit and can use either dry or liquid polishing media. Now that my cases have been inspected and cleaned, I'm ready to begin the actual reloading process. But first, watch what happens to a round as it's fired. Burning powder generates gases that force the case to expand, opening the neck while sealing the chamber. The only pressure outlet is to push the bullet down the barrel. After pressure subsides, the case contracts slightly, enabling it to be extracted. The bodies of all fired cases are all slightly larger in diameter, and there is an obvious distinction between straight-walled pistol brass and the standard bottleneck rifle case. A rifle case shoulder is moved forward a little by firing, and its neck gets too large to hold another bullet securely. As a result, the case has to be resized. Resizing works the brass and shortens its life. A neck sizing die can help because it doesn't set the shoulder back or come in contact with the sides of the case. But there is a trade-off. Now here is an important point. Hand loading is a matter of tolerances, not absolutes. Even the smallest variation in dimensions can mean that a neck-sized round won't chamber in a different rifle. Now that could be bad news. So if you want your ammo to fit any firearm chambered for that cartridge, then use a full-length sizing die, which compresses the entire case to its original dimensions. Going in, the shoulder is moved back and the body diameter reduced. Thickness of case brass varies, so the neck has to be sized small, then expanded back to the correct inside diameter. As the case pulls out, the expander ball is drawn through the neck, setting its inside diameter for a snug bullet fit. Now, before I can resize rifle cases, they have to be lubricated to keep them from sticking. Case lube on a pad works fine, but I can't be heavy-handed or lubricant may build up in the die and dent my cases. A light application of RCBS Case Slick spray lubricant will also do the trick. Then finally, use a case neck brush with a small amount of lubricant so the expander ball can pass more easily through the neck. To set the sizing die in the press, first press the correct shell holder into its ram slot while rotating it slightly. Lower the press handle all the way to the bottom, then turn the die down until it contacts the shell holder. Lift up on the handle to lower the ram a little. Turn the die down another 1/8 to 1/4 turn so that the linkage cams over when the handle is all the way down. That action is only possible with RCBS's compound leverage, and it guarantees full-length resizing. After tightening the die lock ring, insert a lubricated case and lower the handle. When the ram forces the case into the die, the decapping pin pushes out the fired primer and the die resizes the case. As you lift the handle, you'll feel the expander ball pass through the neck, setting its inside diameter. When all the cases are resized, remove the lubricant. A lubricated case won't grip the chamber walls, and this can increase force on the breech face. Your next step is to check the length of each case with calipers. Now, rifle brass grows longer every time it's fired. A case that's too long may not chamber, or even worse, if it does, the mouth can jam in the throat of the chamber, creating dangerous pressures on firing. Now, trimming a case to its recommended minimum length is simple with an RCBS Trim Pro. It is the fastest, most convenient power trimmer on the market. The motor starts automatically, and spring pressure feeds the cutter into the case, leaving your hands free to run the case on a trim-made case prep center to clean the primer pocket, chamfer and deburr the case mouth, and deburr the flash hole. Chamfer and deburring leaves an angled surface that lets the bullet start in without hanging up and possibly crushing the case or damaging the bullet. But don't overdo it. Leave a little flat on the edge. Making a cookie cutter will weaken the case and shorten the usable life. Now is the time to install new CCI or federal primers. I always handle primers very carefully because oil and other contaminants can cause misfires, and when you're working with them, I recommend you wear safety glasses. Scatter the primers on the RCBS primer tray and shake it back and forth on the bench surface. This will bring all the primers anvil side up. On the Rockchucker Supreme, you insert primers one at a time. A new auto priming system is available for the Rockchucker Supreme. Your convenient RCBS priming options are hand priming tools with their patented safety gate, bench-mounted automatic priming tools, or press-mounted options such as RAM priming or APS priming. Now the function is to press a primer into the pocket at the right depth. A primer that isn't at least flush with the case head can be struck and accidentally detonated. If it's not seated to the bottom of the pocket, it can act like a shock absorber, resulting in a misfire. On the other hand, seating a primer too deeply can crush it, flatten the cup, cracking the primer mix, and also causing a misfire. For reliable detonation, the correct seating depth is just below flush with the legs of the anvil firmly against the bottom of the pocket. It would be easier if I could always seat primers to the same depth below flush, but in the real world of tolerances instead of absolutes, primers vary slightly in height and pockets have different depths, so I've developed a personal feel for when a primer is seated to the right depth. It just takes a little practice. And I always check each case for a high primer and seat it deeper right on the spot, never after a round is complete. Now we're ready for powder. But first, I check my Speer manual for recommended powder charges. It lets me make choices based on the type and weight of the bullet I'll use. The bullet weight and the type of powder tell me the charge weight of powder. Now we're loading Speer Match 168 grain bullets over Reloader 19 powder. The range, according to the manual, is 57 to 61 grains. We'll use 58 grains. Powder charging technique is identical for all types of cases, but you'll need a powder scale. RCBS makes several models, both electronic and mechanical. The Model 505 is the most popular. On an eye-level surface, adjust the poises to 0. Use the leveling foot to make sure the beam is indicating 0. Use an RCBS Uniflow powder measure to dispense the bulk of your powder charge. Fill the powder measure with powder, then throw several charges to get it settled, and return the powder back to the hopper. Set the metering screw to an approximate charge weight and throw a charge. Then weigh it and fine-tune your adjustment and reweigh it again. Repeat as necessary till you reach the desired charge and the scale balances. Keeping the hopper at least half full will help you throw consistent charges. Check the powder weight of every 10th charge to make sure the setting hasn't changed. Powders come in a variety of shapes: ball, flake, and stick, and some don't meter as uniformly as others. The ChargeMaster Combo is an automated electronic scale and dispensing system. I simply fill up the hopper with powder, enter my desired charge weight of 58.0 grains, and the unit will accurately dispense the charge with an accuracy of plus or minus 1/10 of a grain. No matter what technique I use, I always visually inspect every case to make sure the right powder charge is in there. Only then will I seat a Speer bullet. Now we are ready to seat the bullets. The body of the seating die holds the case in place and provides the case mouth crimp, while the seater plug pushes the bullet to its correct depth. To adjust the die, thread it a few turns into the press. Make one last powder check before sliding a charged case into the shell holder, then run it to the top. Turn the die body down until it stops. That is when the crimp shoulder contacts the case mouth. Back the die out one complete turn using the head stamp for orientation, and tighten the die lock ring using the die lock ring wrench. To set the seating depth, hold the bullet on the case mouth and guide both into the die as you lower the handle. You will feel the bullet resist and then start into the case. Remove the round and, using calipers, check the overall length of the round. If the bullet needs to be seated deeper, loosen the cedar plug lock ring, not the die lock ring, and screw the plug down further. And tighten the cedar plug lock ring. Reinsert the round and lower and then raise the handle. Remove the round and check its overall length again. Repeat the process until the desired overall length is achieved. Compare your measurement with the maximum overall length specified in your manual or use a factory round for reference. Your rounds may also need to be crimped to keep the bullet from moving under recoil. All pistol rounds and most rifle rounds should be crimped, especially rounds used in tubular magazines like the Winchester Model 94 or heavy recoiling cartridges such as the .338 Winchester Magnum. Now, the purpose of the crimp is not to grip the bullet, but to prevent it from moving further into the case neck. It's called a roll crimp because the case mouth rolls into a cannelure or the groove on the bullet. To set up the press for crimping while the bullet is being seated, first loosen the cedar plug lock ring and back the plug out several turns. Take a loaded round with a bullet you've already seated and put it in the shell holder. Loosen the die lock ring. Now run the cartridge all the way to the top and turn the die body down until it stops. This means the crimp shoulder is resting on the case mouth. Back the cedar plug out so it won't push the bullet too far into the case when you adjust the die body. Raise the handle slightly and screw the die body down about 1/8 of a turn. Lower the handle to crimp and return it back up. Then take the round out and check the crimp. You may need to lower the die a little bit more, but only enough to roll the case mouth into the side of the bullet or the cannelure. A good crimp isn't dramatic, just a slight curvature of the case mouth. Once the crimp is exactly right, run the cartridge back into the die and tighten the die lock ring. Turn the cedar plug back down until it is firmly against the top of the bullet and tighten the cedar plug lock ring. If you over-crimp the bullet, the case shoulder will bulge and the cartridge won't chamber. When all of your seating or seating and crimping is finished, put the hand-loaded cartridges into an ammo box and label it with complete details of the load. We've just covered loading a .30-06 rifle case on the Rockchucker Supreme single-stage press. For accuracy and low-volume shooting, single-stage reloading is the preferred method. But now we'll show you how to load 45 ACP pistol cases progressively on the Pro 2000 progressive press. The main difference between loading for pistol versus loading for rifle is that a pistol die set typically uses a carbide sizing die, and there are 3 dies in the set versus 2 for the rifle. The sizer die has a carbide ring that sizes down the case wall. With less metal-to-metal contact and a smooth, hard carbide surface, you can skip the case lubricant. Pistol cases don't tend to grow longer as fast as rifle cases, so you don't have to trim as often. Setting up the Pro 2000 first requires putting in the cartridge-specific shell plate for what you're going to load. I've already done that. Next, lower the handle and install the carbide sizing die into Station 1 by turning the die down until it touches the shell holder. Tighten the die lock ring. Do not turn the die down further or you may crack the carbide ring. Once it's secure, raise the handle. Insert a case and cycle the handle to size and deprime the case. The Pro 2000 uses reusable APS priming strips. APS primer strips can be purchased preloaded with CCI primers, or you can load your favorite primers into the APS primer strips with the included strip loading tool. Install the correct size captured primer seat plug by screwing it up into the bottom of the shell plate holder. Insert the APS primer strip and index it to the first primer position. There is one more step with pistol cases. Now remember how the rifled case neck was expanded from the inside? Well, a straight-walled pistol case needs an extra die for that job. The expander die has a plug that sets the neck diameter and flares the case mouth, so the bullet can start in smoothly. Screw in the expander die until the body is just slightly off the shell holder plate and tighten the die lock ring. Rotate the shell plate and run the case up into the expander die. Raise the handle to lower the platform, remove the case, and check the amount of case mouth flare. The correct amount is just enough to allow a bullet to sit on the case. If there isn't enough, turn the expander plug down a little further until you get the right amount of flare. Too little case mouth flare will risk crushing the brass during bullet seating. Too much case mouth flare will shorten case life and can cause problems during crimping. Return the case to Station 2 and push the handle forward to seat the primer. Rotate the case to Station 3. Now we get to powder. First, fill the powder hopper with your choice of powder and be sure to close the canister and cap the hopper as a safety procedure. Now adjust the powder measure to throw the desired charge. This adjustment process is similar to when we charge the .30-06 rifle cases. This powder measure system on the Pro 2000 is case activated to prevent powder spills. Cycle the handle to dispense a powder charge. Station 4 will be empty unless you choose to install a lockout die or powder checker die. Both are sold separately. So rotate the case to Station 5. Taper crimping is another step that distinguishes semi-auto pistol ammo from rifle cartridges. On rimless auto-loading rounds, the flare is removed from the case mouth and it is squeezed tightly against the bullet, which doesn't normally have a cantilever. Lower the handle and install the seat die into Station 5. Screw the die down until you start to feel firm resistance. Lock the die body lock ring. Place a bullet onto the case and guide it up into the seat die while you lower the handle. Remove the round and measure the overall length with calipers. Check the length against the specifications in the Speer loading manual. Adjust the bullet seat plug as necessary to achieve the correct overall length. After seating a bullet to the proper depth, back out the bullet seat plug and then loosen the die lock ring. Lower the die body a half turn and cycle the handle. Remove the round and measure the case mouth with calipers. Measure the round lower down. The two dimensions should be the same. If they aren't, turn the die body down in half-turn increments to add more taper crimp until the two measurements are equal. When they are the same, that means the flare is now gone from the case mouth. Reinsert the round into Station 5 and lower the handle. Lock the die lock ring. Screw the bullet seat plug down until it contacts the bullet and lock it in place. Raise the handle and rotate the shell plate. Now that all of the stations have been properly adjusted, I can start to load. Place a case into Station 1 and cycle the handle. Although there is not a case in Station 2, push the handle forward to simulate priming a case. Let the handle come back to the rest position and rotate the shell plate. Place another case into Station 1 and cycle the handle. Remember to push forward to prime the case that is now there. Rotate the shell plate. Place another case into Station 1 and cycle the handle. Note that the powder measure dispensed a charge at the bottom of the handle stroke. Rotate the shell plate. Place another case into Station 1 and cycle the handle. Rotate the shell plate. Place another case into Station 1 and a bullet at Station 5 and cycle the handle. Rotate the shell plate and a loaded round will drop out to your bin. At this point, you'll be inserting a case at Station 1 and a bullet at Station 5, and each cycle of the handle will now produce loaded ammunition. Shot shell hand loading requires different equipment, but not as much of it in relation to rifle and pistol hand loading. Your basic requirements are a reloading press, scale, and load data. You'll also need your components of hulls, primers, powder, wads, and shot. Our CBS offers two different models. The Grand is a fully progressive automatic indexing press. It's designed to load a lot of 2 3/4 inch target shot shells in a very short time. Output rate of the Grand is 600 to 700 rounds an hour. The Mini Grand is a single stage press that is designed for the infrequent shooter or for making hunting loads. The Mini Grand still has a respectable 200 round per hour capacity. Powder and shot charges are controlled by changeable bushings rather than the trial and error adjustment of a powder measure. Using the Alliant Powder Guide, you can determine the recipe and bushings that you require. Unlike rifle or pistol hand loading, where the cases are treated as equal regardless of who made them, shot shell hand loading is determined by the manufacturer of the plastic hull and the type of wad being used. Install the correct powder and shot bushings into the charge bar. In shot shell loading, we have these components: a plastic hull, primer, powder, wad column, and shot. Having the extra components to install and the crimping process requires 3 additional operations. That is the reason that shot shell presses look so intimidating. Fill your powder and shot hoppers with your desired powder type and size of shot. Inserting a hull into Station 1 of the Grand starts the process of sizing and depriming. Insert a hull after each cycle of the handle. The hull is automatically indexed to the next station for repriming. Station 3 is the case-activated powder drop. Station 4 is wad insertion. You will be placing a wad into the wad carrier after each cycle of the handle from this point on. Station 5 is wad seating and shot drop. Station 6 is start crimp. Station 7 is crimping. Station 8 is taper crimping for smoother functioning in a pump or semi-auto shotgun. The Mini Grand works exactly like the Grand, except you load one hull at a time and you move it from station to station. But your setup is exactly the same. You install the bushings in the charge bar, making sure you've made the right selections for both shot and powder. Fill the shot and powder hoppers with your desired powder and shot size. Insert a 209 primer into Station 2 and a wad into the wad guide. Insert a hull into Station 1 and cycle the handle to size and deprime the hull. Slide the hull to Station 2 and cycle the handle to reprime the hull. Move the hull to Station 3 and lower the handle. Slide the charge bar to the right to dispense the powder charge. Move the hull to Station 4. The wad is inserted and seated to the proper depth. Slide the charge bar to the left to drop the shot charge. Move the hull to Station 5. Cycle the handle to put the start crimp on the hull mouth. Move the hull to Station 6 and cycle the handle to close the crimp on the hull. Your first reloaded shot shell round is now complete. Installing an optional taper crimp die into Station 7 is necessary if the reloaded rounds are going to be used in semi-auto or pump-action shotguns. So now that you know how, hand load your spent cases. It is a real money saver. It produces high-quality ammunition, allows you to practice more, which means you become a better shooter. And it's fun and rewarding in its own right, especially with RCBS reloading equipment to make your hobby easy. No matter what your level of reloading experience or the type of shooting you do or the ammunition you prefer, RCBS makes quality hand loading equipment that is ideally suited to your needs. RCBS invites you to check out the wide variety of possibilities from RCBS, the world's finest hand loading equipment.